Stop what you're doing. Close the door. Put your phone on silent. Because what I'm about to tell you is already happening inside you. You just haven't named it yet. Something is shifting right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. In this exact moment, as you're hearing these words, a force is moving through the deepest corridors of your mind. And it's dragging something to the surface. Something heavy. Something old. Something you swore you'd never say out loud. You can feel it, can't you? That pressure behind your eyes. That tightness in your chest. That strange, restless sensation like your own thoughts are trying to escape your skull. That's not anxiety. That's not stress. That is your buried truth clawing its way up from the basement of your psyche. And once it reaches the surface, there is no pushing it back down. But before I tell you what's causing this, before I reveal the exact cosmic mechanism that's unlocking the vault of everything you've been hiding, I need you to answer one question honestly. When was the last time you said exactly what you meant? Not the edited version, not the softened, carefully worded, socially acceptable translation of what you actually felt. When was the last time the raw, unfiltered truth left your mouth without you catching it mid-sentence and swallowing it back down? If you can't remember, that's exactly why this moment exists. Because the sky is about to do something it rarely does. In your silence, your carefully maintained, meticulously protected silence is about to become the most unbearable thing in your life. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening right now, not in the distant cosmos, not in some abstract astrological theory, inside you. Over the past 72 hours, something changed. Maybe it was subtle at first, a thought that appeared from nowhere during a quiet moment. A memory you hadn't visited in months suddenly replaying behind your eyes. A flash of irritation at something that normally wouldn't bother you. Or maybe it wasn't subtle at all. Maybe you nearly said something devastating during a normal conversation. Maybe the words were already forming on your tongue, sharp, precise, loaded with months of suppressed observation, and you caught them just in time. You swallowed them, smiled, changed the subject. But they didn't disappear, did they? They're still there, circling, growing louder. And here's what's terrifying. You're starting to realize that you might not be able to stop them much longer. This is not a coincidence. This is not random emotional turbulence. What you're experiencing has a very specific cause. And understanding that cause is the difference between being overwhelmed by what's coming and wielding it. Right now, 3 cosmic forces are converging in a pattern that astrologers rarely see aligned with this much precision. Mercury, Mars, and Black Moon Lilith. Each one on its own is powerful. Together in the exact configuration forming tomorrow on March 16th, they create something unprecedented. A psychological detonation, and the fuse has already been lit. Let's start with Mercury, because Mercury is the reason your mind feels like a house with every door suddenly blown open. Mercury governs how you think, how you speak, how you process the world through language and logic. Under normal circumstances, Mercury keeps your communication organized, filtered, controlled. But Mercury is not operating under normal circumstances right now. It's retrograde, moving backward through the sky, and it's doing so in Pisces, the one sign in the zodiac where Mercury loses almost all of its structural power. Imagine your logical mind as a filing cabinet. Every thought has a folder. Every emotion has a label. Every conversation follows a predictable pattern. Now imagine someone poured water into that cabinet. The labels dissolve. The folders bleed into each other. Thoughts that were neatly separated, career thoughts, relationship thoughts, childhood memories, fears about the future, they all begin merging into a single, overwhelming stream of awareness. That's Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Your mind is no longer thinking, it's feeling, it's absorbing. It's picking up signals from depths you normally keep locked away. And because it's retrograde, it's not reaching forward for new information. It's reaching backward into your past, into conversations you thought were finished, into dynamics you convinced yourself were resolved. It's reviewing everything. And it's finding discrepancies. Moments where you said you were fine but weren't. Relationships where you performed contentment while something inside you was slowly dying. Decisions you made not because they were right for you, but because they were expected of you. Mercury retrograde in Pisces is conducting an audit of every lie you've told yourself, and the results are devastating. But Mercury alone wouldn't be enough to break you open. You've survived retrograde periods before. You've weathered the fog, the confusion, the emotional overwhelm. What makes this time different, what makes this time dangerous, is what Mercury just collided with. Yesterday, March 15th, Mercury formed an exact conjunction with Mars, and everything changed. Mars is not subtle. Mars doesn't review. Mars doesn't reflect. Mars acts. Mars is raw courage, primal force, the part of you that stops deliberating and starts swinging. When Mars fused with Mercury yesterday, it was like loading a gun that had been sitting empty for months. All those buried thoughts, all those suppressed observations, all these truths you'd been carefully keeping in the dark, they suddenly had ammunition. Have you noticed it? That edge in your voice over the past day or two? That impatience with conversations that feel hollow? That almost frightening clarity about situations you used to tolerate without question? That's Mars energizing your Mercury. Your thoughts aren't just thoughts anymore. They're weapons. And they're fully loaded. But here's the part that should make you pay very close attention. Mars didn't just arm your thoughts and leave. It pointed them somewhere specific. Because tomorrow, those armed, dangerous, truth-carrying thoughts collide directly with the one force in astrology that absolutely refuses to stay silent. Black Moon Lilith. If you don't know what Lilith represents in astrology, let me put it simply. Lilith is everything you were taught to hide. Every thought you censored because it was too intense. Every observation you buried because it would make people uncomfortable. Every part of your identity you amputated to fit into spaces that were never designed for the full version of you. Lilith is the voice that was exiled, the truth that was punished, the knowing that was labeled dangerous and locked away. And right now, Lilith is moving through Sagittarius. Sagittarius doesn't whisper. Sagittarius doesn't hint. Sagittarius doesn't carefully construct diplomatic sentences designed to minimize impact. Sagittarius fires truth like an arrow aimed directly at the center of whatever illusion is standing in front of it. So in Mercury retrograde, carrying months of buried realizations armed by Mars with the courage to actually speak, forms an exact square with Lilith in Sagittarius tomorrow. The result is not a gentle awakening. It's a rupture. The dam breaks, the vault opens. The words you've been rehearsing in your head at 3 a.m, the confession you've been avoiding for months, the observation about someone close to you that you know will change everything. Once spoken, it all comes rushing to the surface with a force you cannot control. And the scariest part? Part of you doesn't want to control it anymore. Under this specific alignment, the truths that surface are not random. They follow a pattern. They emerge in layers, and each one cuts deeper than the last. The first truth that hits is about your silence itself. And for many of you, it's the one you've been running from the longest. There is a situation in your life right now, a relationship, a living arrangement, a professional dynamic where you have been keeping the peace at the cost of your own well-being. You know exactly which situation I'm talking about. The one where you bite your tongue 3 times a week. The one where you've become so skilled at swallowing your real response that you barely notice yourself doing it anymore. The one where the absence of conflict has been mistaken for the presence of harmony. But they're not the same thing, are they? Silence is not peace. Silence is a holding pattern. And you've been circling so long you've forgotten you were supposed to land somewhere. Mercury retrograde has been quietly showing you the cost of this pattern. The emotional weight you carry after every interaction where you chose diplomacy over honesty. The slow erosion of your identity as you repeatedly choose someone else's comfort over your own truth. And Mars is making that cost unbearable. Because Mars doesn't tolerate passivity. Mars doesn't accept the slow drain. Mars demands action, movement, confrontation if necessary. Tomorrow, when Lilith enters the equation, the question becomes inescapable. how much more of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to maintain an illusion of peace that is quietly destroying you? Some of you already know what needs to be said. You've known for weeks, maybe months. The sentence is already fully formed in your mind. You just haven't had the courage to let it out. Tomorrow you might not have a choice. The second truth goes deeper, and it's more disorienting than the first, because this isn't about one relationship or one situation. This is about the entire framework you've been using to navigate your life. Lilith in Sagittarius targets belief systems, the philosophies you live by, the moral codes you follow, the definitions of success and goodness and purpose that you absorb from your culture, your family, your education, your community. And under this transit, a devastating question begins to surface. Did you choose these beliefs, or did you inherit them? Are you living according to principles you genuinely examined and consciously adopted? Or are you following a script that was handed to you so early in life that you never thought to question whether it was actually yours? This is the truth that shakes the foundation, because many people discover under this alignment that the life they've built, the career they pursued, the relationship model they followed, the definition of happiness they've been chasing was never based on their own authentic desires. It was based on compliance, on fitting in, on earning approval from systems and people whose authority they never consciously chose to accept. And the moment you see this, the moment you truly see that you've been living someone else's life while calling it your own, everything feels different. The job that seemed stable suddenly feels like a cage. The relationship that seemed secure suddenly feels like a role you've been performing. The beliefs that once gave you comfort suddenly feel like walls. This realization can be terrifying, because if the map you've been following isn't yours, then where exactly are you? And where are you actually trying to go? Lilith doesn't answer those questions for you. She only forces you to stop pretending you don't need to ask them. And now we arrive at the deepest layer, the truth beneath the truths, the one that connects everything else. You have always known you see things other people don't see. You pick up on tension in a room before anyone acknowledges it. You sense when someone's words don't match their energy. You notice patterns in relationships, in systems, in conversations that others seem completely blind to. And you've been punished for it. Maybe not overtly. Maybe no one ever sat you down and said, "Stop seeing so clearly." But the message was delivered in 1,000 small ways. You're overthinking. You're being too sensitive. You're reading too much into things. Why can't you just let things be? So you learn to dim it, to second guess every perception, to add qualifiers to every observation, to present your clearest insights as uncertain questions rather than the precise readings they actually were. You became fluent in the art of self-diminishment, and you became so good at it that you almost forgot what your full power felt like. Almost. Because that power never actually went away. It just went underground. And right now, under this alignment, it's surging back with a force that your carefully constructed modesty cannot contain. Mercury square Lilith activates what can only be called dangerous clarity. The ability to see through performance, to name what others are afraid to acknowledge, to articulate the shadow with such precision that the room itself seems to shift when you speak. And this deepest truth, the one this alignment is dragging into the light whether you're ready or not, is this. Your intensity was never the problem. Your silence was. Every time you dulled your perception to make someone comfortable, every time you translated your sharp knowing into soft, maybe every time you chose to be palatable instead of precise, you betrayed yourself. Not them. Yourself. And tomorrow that betrayal becomes impossible to continue. So what does this actually look like when the pressure finally exceeds your ability to contain it? When the truth escapes? It rarely happens the way you imagine. You've probably rehearsed the conversation 100 times. You've planned the words, controlled the tone, mapped out every possible response. But when Mercury squares Lilith, truth doesn't follow your script. It erupts in the middle of an ordinary moment, during a routine conversation about something completely unrelated. Someone says something small, a comment, a question, a throwaway remark, and suddenly the words are out before you can catch them. Not angry, not aggressive, just devastatingly honest. And in that moment, something irreversible happens. The room changes, the dynamic shifts. The illusion that was holding the situation together dissolves. And you realize you can't take it back. You don't want to take it back because for the first time in longer than you can remember, the air feels clear, your chest feels light, your voice sounds like your own. Will there be consequences? Yes, some people will not know how to respond to the real you. Some dynamics will not survive contact with your honesty. Some doors will close, but others will open. Doors you couldn't even see before because the fog of your own suppression was blocking them. To connections that require the real you, not the edited version. Opportunities that only become visible when you stop performing a life you've outgrown. Here's what I want you to understand about tomorrow. This alignment is not punishing you. It's not creating chaos for the sake of destruction. It's clearing the fog. Mercury retrograde in Pisces created confusion because you needed to stop relying on logic and start listening to what your deeper self has been trying to tell you. Mars gave you the fire to act on what you heard, and Lilith is simply refusing to let you bury it again. The truths that emerge over the next 48 hours are not random eruptions. They are corrections, course corrections from your own psyche. Recalibrations of a life that drifted off its authentic path because you were too afraid of what honesty might cost you. And yes, honesty costs. It always does. But silence costs more. Silence costs you your vitality, your clarity, your sense of self. Silence costs you the life you are actually meant to live. Tomorrow, the cost of silence finally exceeds the cost of truth. And when that tipping point is reached, the words come. Not because you're brave enough, not because the stars gave you permission, but because your own soul has decided that the cage of your silence is no longer survivable. The truth is already formed. The words are already waiting. The moment is already here. The only question left is whether you'll speak first or wait until the pressure speaks for you. If this resonated with something you're feeling right now, leave a comment below. Tell me what truth has been building inside you. You don't have to name it specifically. Just acknowledge that it's there. Because sometimes the first step towards speaking the unspeakable is simply admitting that it exists. Subscribe if you want to understand what comes next. Because this alignment is only the beginning, and what follows will change everything.